Hey guys, this is Alex from APAutoArt.com. Welcome to part 2 of the Kawasaki Z125 Pro Photoshoot. In part 2, we will actually be going through all the post-processing that I did in Photoshop to see how we got to this result. So let's begin. Okay, so first let's hide the finished result and we'll go through each group one at a time. We'll actually start with the bike and return to the background after because the background makes more sense when the bike is in the foreground. So I should note, if you haven't watched the first part one, you should, just in case you're interested, but this image was light painted. And so the first thing I did was I built the bike up using all the photos that I took, painting the paint and the engine and fairings and etc. etc. So I won't go into too much detail about all these, but pretty much all I did was I put in all the different photos I took, masked out certain parts. So like for this one I just wanted the engine to be visible, so I masked out the engine, then metals, plastics, all that stuff to get to this result. After this I used some healing and cloning brushes to kind of take out some little lights that I didn't like, some visibility, so yeah, fix some areas there. And then I did the actual enhancements of the bike. So the first thing I did was I added more darkness to the darker areas by working with curves. So I did that here. Let's see. As you can see, I made a nice little S curve and then just went through and painted in the darker areas to darken them up. Same thing with the brights. Made a, I don't know what you would call that, but just this kind of curve. Went through, did the same exact thing, painted those in. Then I used hue and saturation and I desaturated the blacks because, as you can see, they're really yellow based on the light outside and the white balance and all that stuff. But I desaturated it, made it gray, silver, whatever you want to call it, but definitely took the yellows out. Then I went through with curves, kind of brightened up the body of the bike so it's not as dark, so I just brightened that up a little bit. So let's see here, that kind of curve map right there. I did another curves map on the tires to darken those up to give it more of a darker punch. And then I did a black and white filter and a gradient map filter to enhance the paint. So the black and white, just adjusted the settings, changed the blending mode to soft light, and lowered the opacity to 20 because I didn't want it to be too powerful. So let's see, if I make it 100, as you can see it's just a little too over the top. So 20 is a nice balance. And then I did the same thing with the gradient map, chose colors that I liked that would enhance the color of the paint, and went through and let's see here, just painted those in with a brush, masked them in, and yeah, so that's what I did to get the actual bike done. Now that we have the bike finished, let's move on to the background layer. The first thing I did was build the actual ground. So let's see here, I fired the strobe twice, once behind the front and another time behind the back wheel, and to just kind of get that little effect and cool little shadows and highlights. Then I used a clone tool and the heal tool and fixed up the ground a little so it looks more presentable. After that I moved on to the background effects area. I just used a black brush and just kind of faded out the foreground just so that the focus is more on the bike and not the environment itself. Then we have the actual effect. What I did here was, if you saw part 1, I used probably like a 12-second exposure and used my LED stick and just kept waving it around different ways until I got a pattern I liked and a color I liked. And I actually, at first I wanted to use the red, but in the end I chose not to. But what I did here was, first I had the effect and then I copied it and blended it in seamlessly into here because I didn't like the fact that this was just raising so high off the frame. So I wanted to kind of continue that balance with the effect. So I did that. Then let's see here. I used curves to darken up the little inside of the waves. I don't know what you would call these, but just the pockets. Just wanted them to be darker and have more dimension. Then I used hue and saturation to just kind of make it all gray. Let's see here. Then used another curves map and just brightened everything up so it has more pop to it. And then I used another curves map to darken the waves even more to give it more contrast. And honestly, the reason why I also did this is if you look, you can see the fence of my house in the background. And yeah, that did not look good at all. So I did this instead to just kind of get rid of it. And that's that. Let's see here. Then I added just a white fade just a brush behind the bike to just give it a little more pop. And then this also enhances the rest of the bike where you can see all the panels so they're not as lost in all the darkness. Then I added brightness and contrast and kind of detailed these little pockets some more to give more dimension. And then added a gradient map, gave it kind of a blue tone. And that's it for the background itself. After the background and the motorcycle were both done, I sharpened the entire image using offset sharpening. I am not going to go through the process in this video, but pretty much used offset 3 different times, increasing the amount, and then just blended it with soft light, hard light overlay, and got the sharpening on the bike done. Alright, and lastly we have all the final toning and effects. So one thing I did was I did let's see, I think it was all curves. Yeah, so I did curves and I did some color correcting using the RGB red, green, blue sliders. So let's see here. That, and that. So just went through, adjusted it to kind of color correct the entire image. Then did I guess color grading on it after that, which again using RGB and just moving the sliders around, making different curves until I got a result I liked. And lastly, added another little shadow around the entire image, a vignette, to get the focus completely on the bike and not too much on the edges. So that's it, guys. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions about this image or anything else that I do, feel free to leave a comment. If there's any tutorial videos or anything specific you want me to go into more detail about in the future, please leave a comment about that as well. And if you want to connect with me on social media, I'm most dominant on Facebook and Instagram, which is AP Auto Art. Yeah, thanks again. Have a great day. Bye.